Today I was going to show you a little bit about something called SimCenter Test Lab Neo. Starting up your Test Lab folder, you'll notice a few things about it. One is all the standard stuff you're used to is there. So you have a desktop, and Test Lab desktop looks like this, where you can go and look at data, etc. But you'll also see that there's some folders that have the word Neo in it. And the word Neo comes from the Greek or Latin word for new. It's basically the new version, if you will, of Test Lab. And it's delivered along with, I'll call it the regular version or Test Lab Classic, on your software installation media. So you get both versions, and you can run either one if you have token licensing. And so anytime you start one of the programs from a Neo folder, you're running this new version. If you're starting it from Test Lab Desktop, you're running the classic version or something that does not have the word Neo in it. In fact, if I look in this Neo General Processing, there's even a Neo version of the desktop and something called the Process Designer. One nice thing about this, just to know, is you can try this new version of Test Lab that's kind of got a reworked user interface. I'll show it in a minute with any of your existing projects. And if you start using Neo and then you're like, well, I want to go back to something that I know how to do in Test Lab Classic, you can do that because the data project files, the .lms files, are compatible between both versions. So feel free to try one out versus the other. If I come in here and I start up Test Lab Desktop Classic version, got a project here called Motorcycles, and I'm going to just show a few things that with Neo, kind of set up the stage, if you will, a little bit. A few things in Neo that we improved upon based on customers' experiences in Test Lab Classic. So one is, if I come in here and I go to a folder, you'll notice that there's quite a few directories I have to go to in order to find my data. So I might find something like articulation index, and I open this up, and then I can look at articulation index, and then I want to see sound pressure level. I can have to open up there, and I have to drag and drop. So there's quite a bit of clicking that you have to do. So maybe I want to compare it to another one of my runs. So I would have to click in through there, find the data I was interested in, drag and drop that data over. And if I had something like a color map or something like that, I would grab color map display, drag it in. If I needed two color maps because I wanted to compare these, I guess they're two different motorcycles together, but I'd have to go up here to this layout management, and I would have to select something like existing layout with two things, do a switch to color map, switch to color map, create this display, and then I would be able to drag in and view two different color maps. That's a little bit about Test Lab Classic. I'm going to open the same project in Test Lab Neo. So if I go in here to any one of these Neo folders, I like this Neo General Processing. I can open up the desktop for doing data viewing. If I open this thing called Process Designer, it actually has some data processing in it. I open it up, it looks like this. For those of you used to Test Lab today, it probably looks quite a bit different, but you'll notice across the top, there's a ribbon, kind of like the newer versions of Microsoft Office. You still have things along the bottom, like desktop and processing and some subtasks in each one for doing things. So that part didn't change too much. If I want to open a project, is it going to be hard in Neo here? What do you think, Charles? To open a project, what do I have to do?
Just hit the file button.
Oh, well, that's still easy. So I can go to File Open here. Comes up just like new versions of Microsoft Office. I can browse to or look for a project, or I could just pick one that I've used recently, like that motorcycles project that I just had open. So now I'm opening the same project file here in Test Lab. On the side here, I can still navigate through the directory structure and look at stuff. And it's similar to your Test Lab today, still have these same folders, it's the same project. But when I get down to the articulation index here, it shows me this list. And as soon as I click on one of these, it displays the data for me. In fact, I can hold down the control key and maybe pick and choose 3 and look at those and compare them easily. So I've already saved one click here. I didn't have to drag and drop. It automatically displayed and overlaid the data for me. That's pretty cool. Now, well, here's another little feature of Neo. So you can see here articulation index is in dB. And maybe you spend a lot of time changing your limits and setting your ticks and grids the way you like them. Well, here, I like articulation index to be shown in amplitude. So I'll right click here and I'll say format amplitude. And then if I go over here to sound pressure level, overall level, and I click on that, it's also showing in amplitude. But this I want to see in dB or decibels. So I'll switch that to decibels. And here is where Neo kind of differentiates itself from Classic. It learns your preferences. I'd like to use a fancy word like it has artificial intelligence, but I don't want you to get worried that Neo will take over the world. Although if you watched Matrix, I think Neo maybe did that in that movie anyway. If I go back to articulation index, it's always in amplitude. If I go to sound pressure level, it's in dB because it remembered I like overall levels in dB. I like articulation index in amplitude, not in dB. So it remembers my preferences, which is kind of nice. You'll find yourself with Neo not having to adjust those limits and everything else as much as you used to because it's going to remember how you like looking at the data and show it in your preferred way. We also thought, boy, people, we don't think they really like clicking through all these folders. So we came up with something for that too. So if I highlight this folder that has the data in it that I want to look at, up here, there's a little way of viewing the data in this area here called the pivot table. So this name is the way you might normally look at the data. If you pick DOF versus function, it's come up with a little list of all the functions of the data that is contained in this folder. And so now if I click on articulation index, it brings that up, but it's kind of nice. If I wanted to see overall level at the same time, I just click there and it automatically configured itself to show me both the articulation index and the overall level. And as I click around, like holding down control key, for example, automatically shows that up. And notice articulation index is in regular amplitude. The overall level is in dB, just like I prefer looking at it. I was able to very easily look at data from different folders without having to click through all these subfolders. I could do it just by clicking on the things right here out of the pivot table and seeing that instantly. Pretty cool. What do you think, Charles?
That is very cool.
I'm glad you agree. Our programmers have been working hard on this. Now over here we have the color map, so I can click on that and see the color map. Now there's more than one color map here. So it used to be I had to do a big layout. Look at this innovation, Charles. If I just click here, I see two color maps.
Oh,
Wait, I want to see four more, and
and
it automatically configures itself, Charles.
I'm blown away, Pete.
I know, I thought I heard you slump over there and faint maybe or something. Yeah, as soon as I click here, automatically shows me the color maps. I don't have to do any special layouts or anything like that. Here they're side by side. If I want, I can go right up here to edit. And this is, again, a little bit different. I can just grab this, put it here, hit OK, and now I see them up, down. And now it remembers, hey, that guy, Pete, he likes looking at these color maps up, down, not side by side, and it remembers that for me. Under File here, you still have add-ins. So these are, maybe a lot of you that process data, you might be used to doing add-ins. So one of the add-ins is this audio replay. And here too, if I'm interested in hearing this, now I got this big play button down here. And you may or may not hear it depending on how GoToWebinar is working, but it's playing this one. And then if I want to hear this color map, I just click over here and I hear it right away. So I can click instantly back and forth between the two color maps. In Classic, I would have had to right click, pick audio replay. After listening to this one, I'd have to right click audio replay again. Now I can just click back and forth. If I want to hear 4 different motorcycles, I can switch between them instantly on the fly. So I think that's quite an improvement as well. If you like this layout, this 4x4 layout, you can click up here and you can say duplicate. And now you have that permanent. So only the first tab here, this preview tab, auto updates showing stuff. Any other tab, it stays fixed with whatever data is in it. Still, if you like dragging and dropping, you can drag and drop from the color map over to here. Drag and drop works in all these other tabs. Preview, that's a tab that automatically shows you whatever you click over here. And notice if I click on this plus, all the icons and displays that I have in Classic are also available here in Neo. And in fact, if I go to other here, any one thing I just created, like I created this a second ago in Classic, all those layouts are also available automatically in Neo. So I can open that up and use it. Or if I liked my 4 color map thing, I can click over here, save as layout, call that 4 color maps. That will be available to me now in both Classic and in Neo because the layouts are the same. The databases are completely compatible as well. That makes it easy to go back and forth as needed. Did anyone have any questions at this point, Charles, like in the chat?
Does Neo use the same active picture add-in as TestLab Classic?
Yes, because they're the same displays. If I click here, say copy as active picture, embedded, I can go right into PowerPoint or whatever and paste that in. It's the same active picture plugin by design, and I only have one active picture plugin no matter which one I use. So hopefully that answered the question, Charles.
Yes.
I'm going to also show processing here. If I go here to processing, and I'll show a little bit about processing in this case. So we have a slightly different approach to processing with Neo. What we have, some of it's similar to what you might know. So if I come in here, I got a project that has some data in it. If I click over here, you can see there's a throughput. And if I want to process it, I'm going to right click here and just say add to input basket, just like you would normally. And there is still an input basket, so I've selected some time histories for processing. And I can select time histories from a bunch of different locations. What's a bit different with Neo, go to my input basket here, I can look at the vibration or whatever, so I can see the data that I'm going to process. What's a bit different is that we have this thing called a process designer. And in this process designer, there is a number of libraries that I can pick things called methods from, and methods define how I want to process this data. So for example, maybe I want an FFT. I could go down here to an area that has something like signature here, spectrum average, drag that out, and you connect that up with a little line, it'll perform an FFT. As soon as I pick it, it also puts it in most used area. You know, I could do a search here, search here for the method if I was looking for something with the word spectrum in it. Anyway, a few ways to get to the spectrum. And when I click on spectrum here, it's going to show me how I can calculate this data. So I'm going to do an average, 50% overlap, 4 Hertz resolution, etc. I hit run, and it went out and processed. And the results are put in this thing called active analysis. If I go there, this isn't stored yet. I can come in and take a look at the spectrum. If I like the spectrum, I can say, okay, I like it. I'll hit accept. And what it does then is it saves this into my project. So it's been processed. Now, where this might be a little bit different than your current throughput processing that you have is I can do some other things. Like I could add another spectrum average and do another line here. And here I could say, I want 4 Hertz, but I also want 1 Hertz. And so I can come in, say 1 Hertz, hit run. And now I'm calculating both a 4 Hertz and a 1 Hertz spectrum. I click on this and I can actually see the difference in the FFT due to 2 different frequency resolutions. I processed all that in one data set, whereas in Classic, I would have had to process those separately. So I can do that all at once, which is kind of nice. It could be that, okay, 1 Hertz and 4 Hertz is great, but maybe I want to do that differently depending on the type of data. So here too, we have a difference compared to classic. We have functions like this split, for example. So I could take the data out, come over here, and then I could say, all right, on the split, if I pick the properties, I can say I want to, depending on the y-axis, acceleration versus sound or something like that. Some data will come over here for 1 Hertz processing, or actually, yeah, 1 Hertz, and then this would be 4 Hertz. And so I'd split the data out and process it differently depending on the type of data it is. So that's kind of nice. I can decide and build some intelligence into my processing routine, process some data one way, some data a different way, depending on what I want to do. It's not just things like a spectral average, right? I could do something like a color map, for example, and then maybe I'd want to do the split a bit differently. I could not just split on the y-axis. In this case, I could even remove that, but I can have multiple splits if I would like. And I could say I want to split based on the run name. So maybe some runs are steady state runs, and I just want the average spectrum there. Actually, you do it by just clicking in here, typing steady. Steady state will come over here if the run name has the word steady in it from when I acquired it, and it could be acquired in Classic. It does not have to be acquired in Neo. And other data like our run-ups would go over here and be calculated into a color map. Now this doesn't really have that data, so it didn't really see the split, but I wanted to at least give you the idea. I'll show another cool feature. Here I got throughput file. It's got 3 different run-ups in it, and you can select a segment by clicking and dragging. Here I had to hold down the Alt key. And you could process one segment, but maybe I want to process all 3 of these color maps, all from one file. Here I can do Control-Alt and select multiple segments. So now I have 3 segments defined. If I click up here, it actually says, hey, do you want me to use these segments that you selected in the display? I'll say, yeah, use them. And not only that, I can go here into the properties of the input, go to segments. It comes up with a little dialog box here. I can say, hey, the first thing was event 1, second thing was event 2, third thing was event 3, hit OK, checked, I'll run this, and now it's gone through, and if I look in the active analysis, I have 3 different runs that it created automatically, and I can look at the color map from all 3 runs with no problem. So multi-segment processing, that's something else that we've added. And we've added a lot of other things. If you look in this toolbox, you got things like, okay, split this up by GPS position, then process each segment. Things like mean stress, strain life, if you do durability, those are also available. Lots of things there. Filtering, rainflow counting, octaves, all the types of processing you want to do. Sound metrics like modulation maps and things like that.
While we're on the subject of the processing, can we show the ability to save processes and export them? And
yeah, so I was going to try and show that if I got a process, I can hit save, and then I can open it from any project later on. But we realized, hey, people may not know what process they want. So if I go to open here, we do have a list of predefined processes that come with this. So if I want to do load data analysis, I could hit OK here, and it has process already defined for me. Or if I hit open again, I could go in and select something like some quality analysis, for example. And so it has pretty elaborate process there. Oh, it's like a triple, Charles. That's, by the way, if I want to, I can double click up here and kind of zoom in, double click, zoom back out, and look at this process. Another thing to kind of point out about these processes, if I didn't really want to do some of these steps, I could take one of these, and rather than delete it, I can actually just click over here and I can say off so that it doesn't do this step. And then if there's a step beyond it, you even have an option, and when you click, let's see, up here, maybe it has an example of that. You can also click here and pick bypass. And bypass would basically skip this step and then do the next step in the process.
I think that answered the question, yeah.
Another thing to point out here that might be interesting. Now I'm messing up my screen a little bit. I can always hit this restore layout, say yes, go to the factory defaults here, which I like better. I was going to point out that we also recognize that there might be some things that we don't have today that maybe you want to write a routine for. So we support two different things in that regard. We have widgets that support doing some kind of Python processing. So that's a free programming language. And if I click on this Python and look at the methods here, you actually pick the Python code out. And then we have an example script of how time data gets sent over to the Python script and then comes back. And you can set some variables for that. And the same thing for MATLAB. You would come over here, you could do some MATLAB processing, and then you could, in this case, maybe just to make clear, you would then, after doing your MATLAB, do a spectral map, then cut orders or something like that. Another thing that we're always thinking about is the future. And maybe in the test lab in the future, they'll give you something to test, but it won't actually be a physical object. It could be a virtual car or something like that. And in fact, at Siemens, we have, I'll just show you simulation code. So like this SimCenter AMOSIM. AMOSIM is a tool that allows you to design things without CAD. Just at least show that briefly. Notice it has the SimCenter name, and there's no accident that it SimCenter AMOSIM, SimCenter Test Lab. We really want to blur the line between test and simulation. So here I'm in this simulation environment, advanced modeling environment. So this happens to be a SimCenter tool, although we're open to all simulation packages. And I can go to open here, and I could grab a AMOSIM model, has a .ame extension. And when I do this, it actually shows me, this is a car, the car of the future. It's all virtual. It's got the ground here and some shocks and a prop shaft, a differential. And each one of these things like this differential, that is, this gear has a certain contact stiffness on it, certain backlash, etc. Got a dual mass flywheel, a clutch, got the engine, got the driver request, which would be acceleration or something. I can see, let's see what the driver's doing. Hey, it kind of drives like you, Charles. It just hits the accelerator and then lets it redline. So that's how you drive, right?
Pretty much.
And then when you want to stop, you don't just gradually brake, you just hit the brakes. And anyway, some vibration or something. So we could actually see what the vibration is virtually without actually having a car here. You have people maybe in your organization doing modeling up front. They say, oh, we want you to check this out, see if there's any potential noise or vibration issues, rather than trying to analyze that data in a tool you don't know. I can come in and go to that same AMOSIM. I can click on and I can view the time histories directly in Test Lab here. See if there's some, well, let's say I go to that same gear here. Now, if I click on that part of the model, it brings up the data just for that gear. And I can see that vibration data. I can right click on this, add to input basket, and process it. That's pretty nice. Again, the idea as we think about NEO and a lot of these new enhancements and things, we want the world between simulation and test to be blurred quite a bit. And what's interesting about this too is, in this case, I'm looking at data from an existing model, but maybe I would want to do something like change the flywheel mass or the stiffness or something like that. That's a little more complicated. That means I would have to run this model. So here I'm just reading the data from the model, but we even allow you to run the model. And we do that using something, and hopefully you don't think I'm swearing or anything like that. We have something called an FMU. You ever heard of an FMU, Charles?
Yeah, that's a school I think my uncle went to.
Oh yeah?
University. It's not a university.
What is it?
It was a bad joke. That's what it was.
Oh, I thought it was a real university. So this FMU, what it stands for is Functional Mockup Interface. So at some point, a lot of these industry people, in the food industry, but that's not the right one. Functional Mockup Interface. So that's FMI. FMU is an actual file made from an FMI. So this organization, what they did is they said, hey, we got all these different types of simulation models. I use SimCenter 3D Motion, or I use AMOSIM. I want all those models to talk to each other. What that does is it defines for a model some inputs and outputs to the model and allows you to run the model from a third-party program. So you can pass data back and forth. So when I click on this FMU, you'll actually see I grabbed this FMU from somewhere. So in your simulation code, so like SimCenter, AMOSIM, and our 3D Motion, you could make this FMU file. I'll just grab one here. I think I have it under MBST, FMU. And when I do that, if I click on inputs here, this is an input to the model. So the time history here, I can actually type in the name of the data channel. That could be that trace for how you drive, Charles. Maybe it's different. And then I have some outputs that I want to process, and I can call them whatever I want. And then under parameters, I get a full list of all the parameters that I've exposed for the model, like the stiffness of the lockup stiffness. And I could come in and I could say, I want a different lockup stiffness. Hit OK here. And I'm going to take the output of this and do a spectral map. I change that. I hit run here. When the data gets passed over, it actually executes the model, recalculates the outputs, and then I can reanalyze them. So that's pretty cool. Not only things like AMOSIM, but any company that makes simulation code for time domain transient type stuff, dynamic stuff, you can use their models through this FMU. You do usually have to have a license for the solver on the system because the FMU just defines the inputs and outputs. It doesn't actually do the solving. I'll show another capability. This is shifting gears again. But again, we're always thinking about the future. So there are some things that are in Neo that you don't have in Classic. And one of those, well, you do have it in Classic in that the display exists called a video display. But we have some nice support for video inside Neo. So if I go into this project here, I got a time history. But I could also right click here, say import, and then I could go and find a movie file, an MP4, and hit open and say, yeah, let's go import that. And now I got a video imported along with my time file. And if I hit play here, I'll actually see both the movie and play at the same time, and I can hear the sound from it, etc. If it played well over the web, you may have noticed a small problem. The problem you might have noticed is we see an impact here, but in the time history, but we don't actually see the thing get hit until right about there. So the video and the time history are not in sync. I took the video independently of the test. In Neo data acquisition, you can use video cameras with your SCADAS. We have a video camera card to record the video and the time data at the same time. Everything will be in sync. But we also know that some people maybe have their own GoPro camera or whatever, and they might want to do this. So here we allow you to go in here and say, add video sync. And what this does is I can then move this red cursor to where the big transient occurs. I could even zoom in to make sure I'm right on the transient in the time domain data. And then down here with this black cursor, I can set up on the, let's see, yeah, that guy's hitting it right there. I'll use arrow keys. All right, so that there's a hit at the same time. They're at different spots, right? 2.73 versus 6 seconds. But if I right click on here again and I say sync those videos now when I hit play, they'll be synchronized so I can actually see them. So
Yeah,
that's another
that's a lot better.
example of the things that we're incorporating in Neo. But yeah, we're thinking about things like virtual testing, video, making very custom processes, all that kind of stuff as part of SimCenter Test Lab Neo. So I think that was everything I wanted to show about Neo.